Right, morning everyone. I've just been informed by HRH that because we're going away, she wants a cat house. So the cat's got somewhere to go and take cover while it's out. So I've been scratching around the workshop in all my offcuts and bits of crap and what have you, and hopefully I've got enough stuff laying about to produce something that the cat can stay in. So, a couple of bits of 2x2. This is not going to be classy. It's just going to be what it is. So, it's going to be somewhere cat can get out of the way for a bit. When we come back, it might last, it might get destroyed, I don't know. But we'll make it anyway and you can have a look at it. So, a couple of bits 2x2. I've got some offcuts of OSB. So, I'm going to join them together, cut them to size, and that'll do as the floor. And then I've got some offcuts of shiplap, which is treated, so that, at least that's waterproof. So I'll make the sides and what have you out of that. There were a couple more bits of offcuts of OSB left over from what I'm using for my kitchen. So that'll probably do for the roof, I think. And then I've got all the little bits of 2x1 that came up from when I smashed the kitchen up that I'm not using. So we can use them for framework. So hopefully we should be able to knock something half decent up. I mean, I've got, Christ knows what's in there. There's all sorts in there that we can utilise. So let's get to it. And what I'm going to do, I've decided it's going to be 400 wide. So I'm going to cut these down to 400, pin them on, get it squared up, and then that's me floor, and that's my starting base. And we'll work from there and make whatever we decide to make up. So I'll get these cut to 400. They're just going on chop saw, so nothing fancy. And then we'll get them glued and pinned on. Right, just cut them down to the 400 that I want, and just straighten them up to that one. So basically all we're going to do is glue it and then pin it down with some brads. Obviously move that to the end, do the same there, and that gives me a nice little substrate for a floor. And like I said, I'll get a bit of glue down these joints just to help hold them together a bit, and then quick sand up on this just to ease it off a bit. In fact, no, I won't, because it's coated. Yeah, no, I'll not sand it because it's coated. So we'll leave the coating on to protect it, and then we'll start making some sides and a roof. Right, there we've got it, one floor, all like I say, glued across there. That'll just give it a bit of stability where I've joined it. But all I'm doing is using offcuts that I've got. So it's not going to be the prettiest thing. I'm not going out buying purpose built stuff for it or special timber or anything. The flea bag's getting whatever I've got left laying about. So right, we'll start making some sides and a back. So I'll work out how I'm going to do that, and then I'll show you what I'm up to. Right, so just had a quick workout, and I've worked out that 3 of these make up enough height for what I need. So I've just cut 6. No measurements done. I've literally cut them to the maximum I can, the maximum length I can get out of the 6 pieces. So whatever that length is, that's what length it's going to be. So I'm going to make a framework up now, get these 2 sides done, and then I can start building the back up. And I'm going to put a bit of an apex on it, so the back will be up to a point, but we'll get that sorted out. Knock a bit of a doorway, archway thing up for it, and then a roof. Bit of felt, job done. So we'll get these sides done, and I'll show you how they're going on. Right, so just laid this out, and I've just been working out. I want this edge to overhang so that the rain has got somewhere to drip off and it's not going to run in and then run onto the floor. So I've just marked off the thickness of the floor that I've used, so that's going to be the overhang. And then there's bits I'm going to use for the side, sit on that pencil mark, and then I've just worked out the angle that I want for the slope of the roof, which is 20 degrees. So basically, sit that on your pencil mark, line up with the top of your finished piece of wood, and then your 20 degrees starts from there and works outwards. So then your next piece will go on like that, and then that gives you your apex both sides. So I've just set up a stop block, I'll show you. Oh. So I've set up a stop block on the saw, set the saw at 20 degrees, so that we just slide that up to there, cut as 20 degrees, and then I've got 4 equal. So I'm going to cut the other 3 now, and then we'll start making up the other bits. Turn extractor on. Right, so that's them cut. So now all I've got to do is work out how much overhang I want for getting the lengths of these right. So I need to, obviously the point comes in the centre of the work, and then it's how much overhang I want for the rain to run off and come out. So I'm going to work all that out next, and then we'll get them cut. But it's all the same. I've cut them at 20 degrees, so all the other cuts are the same at 20 degrees, and it all matches up then. Right, so if you're not sure how to work your roof out and get your apex right, then quite simple, mock it up. So this floor is 400 wide, so obviously the centre is 200, so we've got a pencil line at 200 running up the middle, and then I've sat the 2 pieces that are going to make the apex up, one at either side, and I've then cut that at 20 degrees, and you can see that lines up perfectly with that line there. And then it's just a matter of working out what overhang you want, and then you do the opposite 20 degrees to give you your flush runoff, and that's how you work it out. So now I can set a stop block up by cutting a 20 degree and then popping that up to the stop block, and that gives me the exact length I want. So all I need to do now is make another 3 of them, and then I've got my apexes made, and then I can start fastening all my boards to it. I hope that makes sense for you and makes it a bit easier. But if ever you're in doubt, don't try mathematics to try and work angles out and lengths and everything. Draw it out on a piece of board, then you can't go wrong. It's all there, it's set out in black and white for you. Follow the lines, follow your marks. I'll get these cut now and then I'll get back to you. Right, so that's our stop block set up. All I need is point to the back, gently slide it to the stop block and cut. And that gives me a perfect replica of that one. So, as you can see, that gives you, by going to your pencil marks and using the same angles and working everything out, you can't really go wrong. You've mocked it out, you know it all fits, there's no guesswork thinking, right, have I got this measurement right, have I got that right? It's there in front of your eyes. You can see it, you can adjust it if you need to. If you think, oh, it's a bit too long, that, you can cut it, or think, shit, I haven't made that long enough. You start again and you make a piece longer. You can adjust it, you can see it visually, and it just helps you work it out better by looking at it, I think, than trying to work it out in your mind. So I'm going to get these put together now, and then we can get the sides all sorted out and start getting it built up. Right, so I've just cut 2 pieces for a bottom rail, and that completes the end pieces up. So I'm going to glue these together, pin them all the way around. That'll make that nice and solid, and then I can fasten each end on and then start getting the sides all made up, and then we can start on them with the front and the back. So I'll get these glued and pinned, and then you can see what they look like when they're done. Right, I'll just talk you through what we've done on time lapse. So, laid these out, obviously glued them, nailed them together, and then glued, pinned them in at the bottom there. Same at this end, working out how far forward this has got to come with the length of those, and then pinning those up to the top so they're nice and level, and then we've got us overhang down at the bottom there for the water to run off if any rain gets there. So what I'm going to do now is cut 2 pieces of this timber to run across there, which seals this gap up here then, and also strengthens this top up. Doesn't really need it, it's rigid enough now, but it's just a bit of extra. And then I'll get the other side on, do the same with that side, and then we can start then cutting out for the back and the front and get them on. And well, when it's done, it'll be a solid little bit of kit just to keep a cat happy. But there you go. Right, I'll get these cut now, and then get this side in, then we'll get the other side on, and I'll fetch you back and show you what that looks like. Right, I'll just run over what we've done. I thought I'd set a slow-mo going to run through it all, but didn't. So I'll talk you through it. Right, so as you can see, I put the other side on, and then I've cut 2 pieces to span this to fill the gaps, and basically just glue, a bit of glue across the tops of the boards, and then just toenailing screws in. That one's a bit proud, I might just have to whip over that one with grinder a bit. So the next job is to get the back done. So what we do is start off leveling the board up with this one across so that the boards run round properly, and then we'll build up off of that and come down off of it. So we'll start with that board first, getting it level, get them cut, and then we'll sort everything out from there. Right, I'll get this done and I'll show you in a minute. Right, what I've done here is I've clamped the board in nice and level across so it's in the right place, and then as you come round here I've scribed the line to follow the board, so I'm going to cut them. I'll do that bit on the chop saw, and then I'll fetch jigsaw out and just do them bits of scribes there, continuing that all the way down. Then the pattern follows in nicely, just making a bit of a neater job. I'll get that done and I'll show you what it's like when it's finished. Right, so we've got that one fastened in, and as you can see I've shaped it round to match the contour there. So we just cut the next board to width, and it's just as simple as following that with your pencil, and then cut that out, and that gives you your exact shape. I'll get that cut, and then we'll get the rest all fastened on, then you can have a look at it. Right, when you're using the air nailer, as you can see, you've got to be very careful. If the brad hits anything in the wood, like a knot or whatever, it just veers off out the way. And if you're not too careful, it bites you. So just watch what you're doing if you're using an air nailer. Right, that's the back on. All done and shaped, ready for the roof on that bit. Now it's got to do the same with the front, except we've got to have some sort of a doorway in there. So we'll get that bit done next, and then we can start with the roof then. So what we've got to do now is this board for the bottom, I've had to take the difference of the overhang off, otherwise it would have thrown all the lines out. So as you can see the difference in height now from there to there, that's what we've taken off, which levels that board up like that now. So what I need now is a doorway cutting in. So I'm going to go not quite half, but I don't want to expose this. So as you can see, I've drawn from the inside around there, and then I'll work out how far in I need to be and come up, cutting a slot out, and then the board will cover everything and keep it looking nice, and also start the doorway off. So I'll get that done, and then it's just a matter then of starting to keep building up. Obviously they're going to be thin bits up to the top of the doorway, and then it'll be a full piece across the top and then the point. I'll get these done, and then I'll let you see how it looks. Right, that's the front on. Now you can see what I mean by wanting the outer panel to hide that inner bit. It just keeps it looking smooth and flush all the way down. So that's the front done. The back's on. All we've got left to do now is get the roof on. Now what I'm going to do with the roof, I'm going to give it a fair overhang on the front, so that if the wind is blowing that way, it hopefully keeps the water out and keeps it dry in there. So get the roof done. Now same again, we know these angles are 20 degrees, so all I need to do now is set the track saw at 20 degrees sloping, and then as I cut, those two angles will meet in, and then these angles will also come down to 20 degrees. So I'm just going to cut the two pieces now with track saw. You don't need to see that, you've seen track saw working before. And then once I've got them cut, we'll start gluing and nailing them on. Bit of felt and job's done. Not been a bad morning's work. There we go. That's one side of the roof on. That's the view from the front, so that's going to be the amount of overhang we've got. So basically what we've done is I put a 20 degree angle on there. We know everything's 20 degrees because that's what we set everything to. So 20 degrees on there, opposite 20 degrees on there so it finishes flush. And then all we've got left is the next piece to go on. I have glued that piece on all the way round and pinned it, so it'll be glue around there, and I'm also going to glue this edge as well to try and stop any sagging or parting that could end up, because these edges are sharp, could end up ripping the felt. So if I glue them together, by the time the glue's set, that should never part. Well, that's the theory anyway. So I will get the next piece on. Like I say, it's nothing special, it's just a bit of glue, shove it up, tack it on, job done. All you've got to remember is get your lines, which you can see I've done here. So get your lines on for where your beams are, so you know where they are, and you line across there, so you're not pinning it into thin air, you're actually hitting something. So just remember, just a quick pencil line just makes life a lot easier. Same down there, look. I'll just do the same here. So I'll get that on, and then I'll show you what it's like just before we felt. And there we are. One cat house finished. That's all the roof on. It's just had a quick sand up just to take any sharp edges off so it doesn't puncture the felt. And then I've just hoovered it off. There we are, all the way around. All made out of scrap and leftovers. Haven't had to purchase anything for it. There we go. Right, I'm going to get the felt on, and I'll show you how I do the felt. Right, so this is some felt I had left over from a shed that I did. It's just an offcut, so what I've done, I've rolled it out outside, measured the roof, cut it just a little bit too big, so I've got a bit of overlap and what have you. And now what we'll do, we'll get it stapled on. I'm only using a hand stapler, which is there. So that's all I'm using, just going to staple it all on now, and then that's the job done. I should keep the moggy happy, I hope. More importantly, keeps HRH happy. So, right, I'll get this stapled up and then I'll be back to you. Right, that's it done. That's the felt on. I say all I've done with this is cut it just a little bit oversize, and then just try to keep it as smooth as I can, just stapling it. Hopefully they're not going to leak, but if they do, they do. And it's just stapled round the edges, just stapled in, and that should do it. That's not been a bad morning's work at all, that. Now, there's nothing we haven't done there that you can't do with hand tools. You can do all this with a normal hand saw and a plane and hammer and nails. I have the tools, so I use the tools, but all that can be done with hand tools, and it's taken me a morning, all out of scrap. So I was debating whether to cut all this shiplap up for sticks ready for winter, but it made that instead. So if you found that of any use, if you've enjoyed it, whatever, do consider giving us a like and a subscribe, and we'll leave it for there, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care, everyone.